everybody. Hi, it's 4 o'clock, and we are going to start our Zoom. So, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the virtual Neot Kedumim. This is a tour of our nature reserve through the screen. And Neot Kedumim, I don't know if people who are watching have been here. It is a biblical landscape reserve in Israel, 625 acres, very big by Israeli standards, and an absolute gem of a place. And my name's Elly Waller, and I've been a guide here since 2016. And I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia, hence the accent. But let's get on with it. Okay. 1 minute. Moving the slides. Here we are. So my topic today is the early rain and what is flowering now, or generally I would say what is in season now, and how these plants are connected to the ancient Jewish sources. So here you have a beautiful view of Neot Kedumim, one of our gorgeous spots. And I want to tell you that I went for a walk a few days ago in Neot Kedumim, and I saw some marvelous things, and I'm going to share them. I'm going to share them with you. But just, I just lost here we are. Just to explain the period that we find ourselves in now, the period of the early rain, let me give you a little bit of background. So over here, we have a calendar of the cycle of the year, the Jewish calendar. The inner circle is the lunar calendar, divided into 12, according to the 12 months of the Jewish year, of the Jewish calendar. And the outer circle is you can see the seasons. And I've highlighted in yellow the month of Cheshvan, because it is Cheshvan. It's the 8th month if we start from Nisan. And it's actually the 14th of Cheshvan today, and it is October 29th. So October 29th, everybody's counting down from the terrible event that we experienced in Israel, October 7th, and we'll be talking about that a little as well. You can see in the corner, it says Stav, and the leaves are falling off the trees, because that's the period that we find ourselves in now. In the middle, I have a picture of the scroll that's inside a mezuzah. Inside a mezuzah, you have 2 paragraphs that are written by a Torah scribe from the book of Deuteronomy. And the second one I've highlighted. If your eyesight is very good, you can see that it says, "Venatati matar artzachem be'ito yoreh u'malkosh." And I will give you the rain of the land in its due season, D-U-E, at the right time, the early rain and the late rain. So you can gather in your grain, your wine, and your oil. And I want to focus in on that word, yoreh. Yoreh. Yoreh means early rain. And we experienced that here in Israel a couple of weeks ago. We had our first rain. And the last day of Sukkot, which was Shmini Atzeret, which was Simchat Torah, which the day on which we had the terrible event that happened down south, on that day, in all of the synagogues in Israel and around the world, we said a special prayer for rain, Tfilat HaGeshem. And ever since, we've said in our daily prayer, let the wind blow and the rain fall. But it was only last Saturday night, 2 weeks after Simchat Torah, it was only last Saturday night that we changed the other prayer in our daily prayer. And you can see that over here in the top right-hand corner, Birkat HaShanim, the prayer for the year, that we made another tweak to our daily prayers. Instead of saying V'ten bracha, as we do in the summer, we say V'ten tal u'matar levracha, that the dew and the rain should fall, because we are in now the period of time where we want the rains to fall. And we're already feeling the effects of the change in weather and the change and that little bit of rain that we've had. We're already feeling that out in the shetach, out when we go walking outside. So I want to share some of that with you today. So here in this picture, you can see these are my fingers picking just around Brechat HaShikmim, around the pool of the sycamore. I'm picking some blackberry. And I want to tell you, this was a few days ago, delicious. You eat them when they're black and sort of a little tiny bit squishy. Absolutely delicious. And that is blackberry from the it's also called holy bramble. This picture over here shows the flower of the holy bramble. That is my mum's hand. This was taken some years ago around this season, and you can see the beautiful flower over there. In Latin, this plant is called Rubus sanguineus, and in Hebrew, Petel kadosh, sometimes called Rubus sanctus, actually. We'll come back to this picture, and I want to talk about this quote. So this is a quote from the book of Exodus, Shmot, where God appeared to Moses the first time. And it goes like this. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in the heart of the flame out of the sneh. The Hebrew word is sneh, meaning bush or burning bush. Moses looked, and behold, the sneh burned with fire, and the sneh was not consumed. And I've given you a picture over here for illustrative purposes of some burning going on. Okay, so I want to talk about, I'm going to go back to the picture of the blackberry. I want to talk more about the blackberry and tell you more about it. It's a thorny bush with beautiful flowers, and it's related to the rose family. And as I said, the berries are juicy and delicious. The Talmud records that the fruit could be eaten, boiled into an extract or syrup, and made into an alcoholic beverage. Now, getting back to when Moses first encountered the sneh, the burning bush, it was a very surprising event for him. And we try to work out what was that burning bush. The commentators try to identify what could that plant have been. So you've got a big clue over here that many commentaries believe that it was the blackberry. But there are those, and I found this in a book by Moldink called Plants of the Bible. There are those who maintain that it was not the blackberry, but this picture of this plant over here, Harnug Hashitim in Hebrew, or Loranthus acacia in its scientific name. And this is a very, very interesting plant, and I've actually seen it down in the desert. Imagine Moses being in the desert, and the tree that stands out most in the desert is the acacia tree, the shita. It's tall. I mean, it's not huge. It leans over because it's blown over by the wind. Its leaves are very small because it's very careful to try and retain as much moisture as it possibly can. But then sometimes you see some very fleshy green leaves growing on the acacia trees, and you wonder to yourself, what's going on here? And then sometimes you can see that all over those green leaves, there are red flowers, and you can see those red flowers in the picture to the right here. They are the flowers of the Harnug Hashitim, which is a tapil, which means it's a parasite. It's growing on the shita, and it has those red flowers. So there are those that say that when Moses saw the burning bush, he was actually seeing the red flowers. But you know what? Here in Neot Kedumim, we don't love that explanation, because Moses was a man of the desert, and seeing plants, the shita, covered with this parasite, shouldn't surprise him. He should have been used to that. He was a seasoned desert shepherd. Noga HaReuveni, the founder of Neot Kedumim, suggests that the vision that Moses saw was a combination of a certain plant and a mirage. We know that in the desert, it's common with the heat and the refraction of light, it's common that you might see things that might not be there. Perhaps that was somehow involved in the vision that Moses saw. But as I said before, most ancient biblical translations and Talmudic commentaries believe that the burning bush was the sneh, the blackberry that's pictured over here. And as I said, the Latin name is Sanctus and the Hebrew name is Kadosh, referring to the fact that it's holy. There's something going on here that gives it this elevated status. It reflects the belief that this was the plant wherein God first met Moses. Ephraim and Chana HaReuveni, the mother and father of Noga, they were famous botanists, and they explain the Hebrew word for bush, the word that we used in the Pasuk, sneh, as being, this is a predominantly thorny bush. The sages noted its similarity to the name of Mount Sinai, Sinai, Sneh, Sinai. There's something very similar. According to Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, from the Sneh we get the name Mount Sinai, which is Chorev. Both Sneh and Sinai can contain the Hebrew words Samech and Nun. And we know that the commentaries often take the Samech and they can transpose it with another letter which is similar with the Shin or the Sin. And when you do that, you get the word Shen, which means tooth. And we know that in the Sinai, there are lots of mountains and rocks that are tooth-like, which resemble sharp teeth, as do the thorns of the blackberry. I want to read you a quote from a fabulous book called Walking the Bible by Bruce Feiler. It was written in 2001. Highly recommend this book, where he describes coming to the land of the Bible and learning what he could. He describes visiting the 4th century St. Catherine Monastery of the Burning Bush in the valley below Jebel Musa in Sinai. He visits the mountain bramble in the middle of the night. And he said it is the most famous shrub in all of Sinai and probably in the Middle East. And this is what he said. One thing everyone agrees on, the bush grows quickly. It grows. There's a bush that grows in this monastery of the burning bush. That bramble in the backyard that you can never quite contain. The monks have been known to prune it and give the clippings to visiting pilgrims to take home. In 1984, the bush grew so big that it looked long and sickly. The monks held an anxious meeting in which they elected to crop the plant close to its roots. On the day of the event, there were more remains than the assembled visitors could cart home. So the monks did what any pious congregation would do with the assembled pile of clippings. They set it on fire. As one wry monk, maybe a sarcastic monk if there is such a thing, who witnessed the event reported, yes, it did burn. The burning bush did burn. Thank you, Bruce Feiler. So getting back to the blackberry, it's a plant that thrives near streams, springs, and desert oases. There are many midrashim relating to the blackberry, and I want to share one with you now. This one. It says, a heathen inquired of Rabbi Joshua ben Korcha, why did the Lord appear to Moses in a lowly bush? He answered him, if it had been in a carob tree, you have a beautiful carob tree over on the left here, or a sycamore tree, that's over in this picture here, would you not have asked the same question? But I cannot leave your question unanswered. Why in a bush? In order to teach that there is no place where the divine presence is not to be found, even in a lowly bush. That is a quote from Exodus Rabbah, the Midrash, and it's teaching us that the bush was chosen because it is modest, it is unassuming, like Moshe himself. Even in this unassuming bush, Moses was able to have this intense spiritual experience. There are many, many other midrashim that take the qualities of the blackberry and teach us religious messages from those from those physical characteristics of the blackberry. If we have time at the end, I'm happy to read you more. But in the meantime, I want to share some research that was done by a Dr. Moshe Blas, who's an expert in Israel in medicinal plants. And he took a different quote that I haven't brought for you here from the book of Yecheskel, from the end of the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47, which is all about the vision of the living waters. And it ends with describing a particular plant that grew near these living waters. And the last couple of words of that last verse say, Va'alehu letrufa. Its leaves were for a cure. Somehow the leaves of this plant were medicinal. And the word trufa here is a milah yechidait. It occurs nowhere else in scripture. We call it in Latin a hapax. And all of the commentaries, Rashi in particular, maintain that it was the blackberry. The blackberry, a woody perennial that was considered to be a tree for Jewish religious law, for halachic purposes, for example, for Orla. It grew by the bank of a stream, and it doesn't lose its leaves. All of these qualities make it to be identified as that plant that is mentioned in Ezekiel. Even today, and all through history since ancient times, we've known that from the blackberry you could make treatments to treat wounds and infections, diarrhea, ulcers, gum infections, skin diseases, burns, sheloneda, and lots of other things as well. May we not know of such things, but unfortunately we do. The vision of the burning bush made a lasting impression on Moshe. And at the end of the book of Dvarim, again, when he's blessing all the 12 tribes, when he talks to Yosef, he says, Umimeged eretz umloa, uratzon shochni sne. He uses the word sne again. And that teaches us that it really made an impression on him. And one last piece of a different midrash from Shir HaShirim I want to share with you is that it says, Min sne nafak varda. From out of the thorns comes a rose, meaning out of difficulty and out of a thorny place comes something good. And we fervently hope that during these dark days of tragedy and despair, these too will pass and better days will lie ahead. I want to go on now. You can see already the next slide. I want to talk about other things that I saw on my walk around Neot Kedumim just the other day. This is what I'm sharing with you because when I'm taking a group and I'm walking with them, I'm teaching them about the archaeological installations that we find in Neot Kedumim, and I'm teaching them about what life was like in biblical times. But one of my favorite things to do is what we call teva mizdamen, where we're just walking along, keeping our eyes open because things change all the time, and we see something and we stop and we just want to tell the people who are coming for a visit what's going on with this plant and where it's mentioned in the ancient sources. I don't think I'm going to have time to get through all of them, but let's talk about the one on the left, the yellow one, Inula viscosa, or sticky fleabane in English. Funny name. So this is able to bloom throughout the long hot summer. It's very distinctive. It has a distinctive scent. People say it smells like camphor. And in Hebrew, it's called tiun davik, because the leaves are very sticky. And it's known to thrive in ruins. Yehuda Amichai was once asked in a press interview what his favorite scent was. And his answer was the smell of this plant. This is the real smell of Israel, a little sweet and bitter, both dry and strong, and full of despair. I think that in many ways sums up what we feel now. In Latin, the name is Inula viscosa, and I found a website of an Israeli biochemical company called Aviscosa that says that Israeli tiyun, remember it grows all over the world, is the strongest tiyun in the world because of the harsh climate it has to contend with. Yep. In Nissim Crispill's book of plants, there are pages and pages of remedies that can be made from this plant. Maimonides, in his writings, used it a great deal. I could go on, but I'm just going to end with the Inula Viscosa telling you that the ancient Roman naturalist Plinius recommended, let no day pass without eating some of the roots of the Inula to help digestion and to cause mirth. We all need a little bit of mirth these days. Let me tell you, talk about other things that I found on my walk the other day. Okay, so what you see on this page are geophytes. What do I mean? These are flowers that have sprouted after the first rains, after the Yoreh, that's the name of the first rains, and they grow from bulbs under the ground. So they have the energy stored there, and they just need that little push from the rain in order to pop up. And they are just, when you're walking around, they give you such pleasure to see them. And all of my WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups are just full of these beautiful, beautiful colors and glorious designs of flowers. So let's talk about the one in the middle, Stephen's Meadow Saffron. And let me tell you like this. It's also called meadow squill. This autumn flower, as I said, blooms with the first rain. And the botanist, our botanist, Ephraim Hareuveni, Noga's father, preferred to call this flower by the name Bar Hayoreh, Hayoreh from the first rain, instead of linking the name of the flower to the word autumn, stav. Most people call it sitvanit, but he preferred to call it the Bar Hayoreh. I read a beautiful Agadah, a beautiful fable that was traditionally told to children about the Elly, which is translated as, Willy Wagtail bird, that I saw just the other day. They're here because it's the season. And they were, apparently, there were a lot of wagtails hopping about, and they started to tweet, 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 more than they usually would, because they couldn't see the sitabaniot. They couldn't see these pink clusters of flowers anywhere, and they knew that they needed to have popped up at this time. So with all their tweeting, they managed to wake up the flowers. So together with the Willy Wagtail, together with the Nachlieli, the Sitvanit Hayoreh is called Mevaser Hastav, the harbingers of the autumn. The most famous harbinger of the autumn, I didn't bring as a picture, is the Chatzav, the white squill, but a mini version of the white squill is over on the right-hand side. This flower, so delicate, it's teeny weeny. You really have to know what you're looking for in order to find it, but when you find it, it's a treat. It's called Ben Chatzav Sitvani. Look how beautiful it is. And it's often called by, together with the one next to it, the Kadan Katan Prachim, it is nicknamed Pa'amonei Hageshem, the rain bells, because it springs up in autumn with the first rains. So they are just lovely, lovely, lovely flowers to look out for. I didn't talk about the yellow one, I know. If we have time at the end, I'll come back to it. Okay, the last one I think I'm officially going to talk about today is the spiny hawthorn. You have a big photo I took of the spiny hawthorn, or just hawthorn, in the middle here. If you zoom in, you can see that there are little yellow balls, the fruit, and on the ground there's a whole lot scattered when you shake the tree and they just fall onto the ground. I've been participating in Neot Kedumim in the Mesik Zaitim, which is the olive harvest, And you can't just shake the olive trees. You really have to bang them with a stick in order to get the fruit off. But the hawthorn is much more delicate. And on the right here, we have a version with red fruits, but it's of the same family. And if you look on the left here, you can see that in my hand, you can see the yellow fruit. And that sign over there that you can see is a sign that we have on many, many, many trees in Neot Kedumim, where it gives you the Hebrew name, the Latin scientific name, the English name, and the name that the Mishpachat Reuveni, the Reuveni family gives the plant, which is not always the same, and other important facts that you can learn that are helpful to know about the plants as you're walking around. So let me just tell you a little bit more about the Cratagius aronia. It's also from the rose family, and the Latin name Cratagus is related to the Greek word for strength, kratos, meaning tough. And the ancient Greeks used the sturdy wood of this tree for building furniture, including wedding thrones. They also used the lovely flowers to make garlands or crowns for brides. So it was called the tree of good tidings. Halavai. I wish that we will have good tidings. On the website Flowers in Israel, fantastic website, all one word, it says about the hawthorn that the word hawthorn comes from the Old English word for hedge and also applies to the fruit. The fruit is called haws, Haws. The hawthorn's tasty fruit is like a tiny apple. It's a very good source of vitamin C and was often used to make jam. The leaves, which are, you can see them, which are shaped like crowns, are also edible. All parts of the thorny hawthorn, from the root to the fruit, are used for medical purposes. There's an excellent website called Hope Herbs from Israel, and she explains that the kratagus, as it's in Hebrew, as she says, is wonderful for lifting your spirits. She says, you can get these supplements in a health food shop, but we are so lucky in Israel and in Neot Kedumim in particular, we can just go to the trees and pick a couple of leaves or eat a couple of the fruits to lift our spirits. It also lowers blood pressure. It settles your beating heart and your arrhythmia. It's great for anxiety and depression, and you can best use it by making a herbal infusion from the different parts of the plant. If you look on the sign here, I don't know if you can read it, but in the bottom right-hand corner it says tapuach, because I'll explain why. Tapuach means apple in English, but that's the modern Hebrew for apple, is tapuach. But Eve never ate a real apple like a Granny Smith or a Pink Lady. And in the book of Genesis, it doesn't say that Eve ate an apple. It says that she ate a fruit, and the kind of fruit was subject for discussion. And by golly, the rabbis did discuss it. And we know that over history, Renaissance paintings and everyone else painted it as an apple. But what was actually the fruit? It could have been many things, but where does it actually say apple in the Bible? Look to Shir HaShirim, where it says that the lovers sat beneath the apple tree, the young lovers who were very much in love. And it was such a happy and such a beautiful time for them. So perhaps the tapuach that is mentioned in the Song of Songs, perhaps it was this fruit. Not all the scholars agree, but perhaps it was. In the Mishnah, it's mentioned a lot. It's called uzrar or uzrad, but in modern Hebrew, we call it uzrar. So I hope I gave you just an example of my little walk through Neot Kedumim and all the wondrous things I saw. I'm going to stop the share now, and if anybody wants to ask me any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I see that someone's asking about where you can watch the recording. It will be put online, hopefully.
We're working on it.
Yeah. Anybody wants to ask me a question either by writing or unmuting, I'm happy to answer.
This was wonderful. Could it be a little longer in the future?
Pardon, say that again?
This was wonderful. Can it be a little longer in the future?
Well, they give me half an hour, but
Aw.
as I say, as I say, I'm happy to answer you any questions now if you have extra questions. Dina, do you live in Israel?
Yes, I live in Jerusalem.
Have you ever visited Neot Kedumim?
No, but I would very much like to now. Is it open now?
Nope,
No, it's
No.
closed.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
We have
But
to wait till after the situation
do you,
passes, please God. Well, Moshiach's
please
here.
God, please God. Do you live anywhere where you can get to nature?
Yeah, I live across the street from Gone Soccer.
Super, brilliant, brilliant. Just go behind the cultivated region of Gansaka and you're in, and you will see lots of sitvaniot. Oh, you will see sitvaniot Yerushalayim, Jerusalem autumn squills, which are almost white,
Uh-huh.
magnificent.
Okay, we'll take a walk, Bezrat
Yeah,
Hashem.
they grow right down close to the ground. So look down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ellie. It's
pleasure.
wonderful.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Hoping for better days.